A lot of the tools that we get to learn in recovery, which is like a gift, which I think that if we taught all children, like how do you regulate your emotions, how to set healthy boundaries, and all of these things are like normal processes of life, right? The human experience. Learning how to cope with them, that's like gold.
Welcome to Head for Wellness. Join us as we explore groundbreaking paths in mind-body health by featuring insights and innovations that are helping people lead healthier, happier lives, thanks to cutting-edge developments in the field of behavioral health.
Hi, I'm Jessica Metzel, woman in long-term recovery and parent in recovery. Today, we're going to be discussing parenting in recovery, breaking the stigma, and generational cycles with Kayla Calafiore. Come with me while we head for wellness. I'm here today with Kayla Calafiore, Director of South Florida Wellness Network and mother in long-term recovery. Hi, Kayla.
Hi.
We're going to discuss today parenting in recovery, breaking generational cycles, and breaking the stigma surrounding that. So first and foremost, I wanted to ask you how your recovery shaped how you show up as a parent today.
It's changed everything. First of all, I was 17 when I found out I was pregnant, and I was completely broken, strung out on drugs, the whole nine. And when I think about how I parented the first 5 years of his life and how I parent now, it is completely different. Prior to recovery, having like the principles and the tools and like the understanding, really self-awareness and the healing that I've done, I wasn't giving that to my son, nor could I give that to my son prior to me actually experiencing it for myself. So in recovery, the way that I show up as a parent is completely different because I now have a lot of the self-awareness and insight to the things that I struggled with and what it took to heal those things, how my trauma manifested in behaviors and perceptions and choices that I was making, and not dealing with those things and then throwing in the mix raising a child. Kind of those two you can think are going to create chaos, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What myths or stereotypes would you want to break when it comes to parenting and recovery?
Recovery is nonlinear, right? Meaning it could look all kinds of ways. So is parenting. First of all, each child is different and acquires a different set of needs and has different personality, emotional needs. When I think about some of the myths and the misconceptions, one is that labeling a child for their behavior rather than understanding like where is this behavior rooted in. Because what I've recognized in children is that a lot of the time, because they haven't developed their emotional intelligence and regulation, and a lot of the tools that we get to learn in recovery, which is like a gift, which I think that if we taught like all children, like how do you regulate your emotions, how to set healthy boundaries, how do I get in tune with my body and how this makes me feel so I can manage like stress and anxiety, and all these things are like normal processes of life, right? The human experience. Learning how to cope with them, that's like gold. And so I think that if we just shift a paradigm shift of like understanding, it could really change the trajectory of our children.
So when we talk about generational cycles, do you believe that you've broken a generational cycle? Does that fit for you?
Absolutely. I do have this belief that I love my parents, and I think that they did the best that they could with the knowledge that they have. And so when I look at even like me as a parent today, there's a lot of things that I've gained from both of my parents, right? And looking at like how I parent. But then there's a lot of aspects that I've changed because as I've grown in my knowledge and my wisdom, it has allowed me to see beyond maybe like a parenting style or how maybe they did or didn't show up for me. Goes back to my theory is like those who gain the knowledge and learn and know better will do better, because really none of us are given a handbook that says, hey, this is how you're going to raise a child. Motherhood is messy and beautiful and amazing because I want to be the best for him. So it's pretty awesome. I think that generational dysfunction and all of those things can be passed down, but they can also be conquered and defeated, and then restoration can happen across the family line.
How do you think we can better support parents who are going through the healing process?
I think we need to understand that it is a process, right? I think a lot of the time we expect too much too quickly. Whereas I understand that even in my recovery process, right? I'm 9 years, I'll have 9 years in August.
Congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it. But it's been a process, and it's still a process, and I'm still healing, and I'm still learning, and I'm still growing. And so I think we can better support parents by championing them in the process, is understanding that the process is messy, it's non-linear, that they're going to grow a lot, and in growth there's uncomfortability. There's a lot of unlearning and relearning, and that takes work and it takes time. People need encouragement. They need you to stop looking and criticizing what's not working and start looking at their strengths. But if we create more spaces where we talk about like the struggle, then I think more parents would be willing to like work through those things, because to me, a parent that suffers in silence because they're afraid to talk about something that they're going through, that chances are there's 10 other parents in the room going through the same exact thing, like that to me is sad. And that's why I share everything about my life, and I share the struggle and the triumph and how we've overcome, because my son is very resilient, and I told him, I was like, you have an incredible story to share, and I can't wait to be in the room when you share it one day.
I really appreciate you coming today, and I appreciate you discussing parenting and recovering with me and the stigma around that and just breaking these cycles. And I think it's so important to bring this information to the general public.
Yeah.
I think that everybody could benefit from some kind of healing. And parents, they get overlooked, I think, sometimes. So.
Absolutely, I think so. And I think honestly, whether you have a mental health diagnosis or you struggled with a substance use disorder, I think a lot of these concepts that we're talking about is good for all parents, right? Because parenting is hard for whoever you are and whatever your circumstances are. So,
and it's okay to talk about.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that here today.
Head for Wellness is made possible by FHE Health. To learn more, go to fhehealth.com/headforwellness.